Hey everybody, welcome to 2021. You are now listening to another episode of the Self-Aware Millennial. I am your host, as always, J Mix. Will always be J Mix. So I want to start first off with announcements because the last episode y'all listened to, y'all know I was already down in the dumps. I was ready to take a break. So I'm going to tell y'all about what I did over this break because I mean, what happened first off is that, I departed for like 3 weeks and 2021 is already giving 2020 a run for its money. I mean, like everything's happening, but we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. But my break basically, I did a lot of cooking, I did a lot of cleaning. I delivered my annual batch of pralines to my family and friends all across the country. It's kind of been weird, however, like being here for the holidays because normally I am up in the Northeast visiting my family and friends, and I had been doing that for like the last maybe 4 to 5 years. So like just kind of being here, especially like on New Year's. For some reason, I was just like, it's just so weird being home for New Year's. I'm usually at like somebody else's New Year's party, like living it up somewhere else. So just like getting used to that adjustment, knowing that's not going to last forever. Hopefully next New Year's I won't be in the city, but it wasn't that bad, honestly. It was very interesting though. I forgot how many, because I don't have cable, I forgot how many like commercials happen on like regular cable TV, and I was just like, yeah, I'm glad I made that switch. So also, y'all, I've been roller skating, but I've been having to roller skate less due to the cold weather here in the city, and I'm not trying to catch anything, not even COVID out here while this weather is happening, and I already know it. Like the thing is here in New Orleans, the COVID numbers are like skyrocketing right now, like out of nowhere. The numbers are much worse than they were before, like when the pandemic started. So everyone, or at least I am like trying to take precaution, just not be around anybody. uh let's see what else happened. Oh, I did the busted challenge. But yeah, I had my thighs on fire and it's still on fire, and I did that like a week ago, so shows my age. Um and also, I wanted to let y'all know my upcoming projects that I'm collaborating with other creatives in the next couple of weeks to a month or so. I'll be arranging a song for J20 NOLA, which is going to be put on by the People's Assembly next week here in the city. If you're not familiar with the People's Assembly, they are a grassroots organization that basically calls to action things that need to be done for this in the city for workers and just community members. So we do a lot talking about trying to raise awareness about like housing discrimination and things of that nature. So I'm arranging We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest, and we're going to be singing like a revolutionary choir situation out there next week. I'll give y'all more information in the description so y'all can check it out. I will also be directing an episode for one of my friends, a Patreon member as well. They've asked me to jump on and put my little directing skills to the test. So I was like, yeah, sure, let me do it. It's been a while since I've been on the directorial side of anything. So it'll just be nice to kind of get back into that for a little bit. And then also the biggest thing I've been doing this past break was I got acquainted with Logic Pro. I finally upgraded. And so I've been fine tuning my single that I've been working on for like a year now. And just, I'm also having a mini album in the works. So that's going to be coming out in the next couple of months. Stay tuned to the page to see what's going to be coming up, because like it's all over the place. I only named like maybe 2 or 3 things that are happening, but there's a bunch more that I just can't talk about right now. So with all of that, I'm still experiencing a strong anxiety and depression episode situation, unfortunately. For some reason, I've really been feeling like I've lost my purpose for now. And I know that has a lot to do with just COVID-19, like just throwing everything all over the place and like not being able to do my usual things. Because what I used to do was I used to perform on stage for audiences and everything, and like not being able to be amongst people in spaces like that are so intimate like that. It's just weird. So I just feel like feels like something missing.
Yeah.
So with that, my therapist, and support circle have encouraged me to produce my episodes when I'm feeling mentally clear and ready to do it. So I'll be holding myself accountable to that. And I'm going to strive to have episodes ready for y'all every single week from here on out. But that might not be the case if I'm swimming in a cloud of anxiety, which I don't want. And I don't want to be too anxious before I like come on here and talk to y'all. So I love consistency, but not at the expense of my mental health. And on here, we talk about mental health like every single time. I'm always stickler. Like if you don't feel like doing this, don't do it right now. Do it later. Like that's my person. I need to start practicing what I preach. So I'm going to be practicing what I preach. Quality over quantity 2021. That is my motto. Quality over quantity. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of announcements. I want to introduce my guest. This is Chris Parker of Parker XL. He is a fashion and lifestyle influencer who gives tips and tricks to walk through this life confidently and abundantly. Um,
Yes.
yes. So did I miss anything? Is that like a nice like
No, no,
summary?
no, no. You introduced me well. Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. So outside of your profession, Parker, what
Yes.
who do you say that you are? Like who are you? I hate to just ask people like what do you do? Like what's your profession?
Yeah, no, no, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I think ultimately at the end of the day, what really sums me up as I am a brother, I am I'm a father essentially because I'm a godfather, and I'm
Um
also just a human out here, trying to just inspire and also just do by leading, right? And so
yeah.
I think ultimately, I think that's who I am. But as far as professionally, I am a creative, but I also like to have like holistic approaches to things because I do believe in things such as like business karma. I do believe in certain things such as having work ethic and different things like that, and also having quality work. So that just kind of comes together with, my professional business side, but I also like to kind of take a holistic approach to that, and not everything's not about just like contracts and, the per diem and like just, the money and all this other stuff like that. I mean, all those things do
Yeah.
matter, right? But at the end of the day, I want to feel good about the work that I'm doing. I also want to have people around me feel good because the better you feel, the better you do. And I think that with lifestyle things, that can help you do better in business. So if maybe for some people, their thing is like doing their hair, or maybe for some people, it's like taking a shower. Maybe for some people, it's running. If those are your things that are your things that make you feel better, make you feel like the best you, make sure you put emphasis on that, because without that, your business will never be successful. And so
Ooh,
that's taken a long time for me to learn. And so nothing that I preach about or talk about is not from personal experience. So everything that I talk about is all based off personal experience and personal growth. And so to sum it up, I guess, ultimately I am just Parker out here trying to make change in the world in multiple different ways. But my ultimate goal is just to impact people that I come across.
I love that. Ugh.
Yeah.
I need to start using that approach in my life, obviously, because when you said that, I was like, okay, roller skating is definitely that thing I can always turn to.
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that started really roller skating this past summer. So like I just got really
Nice.
good at it then within the last couple of months. And like that is my go-to. Like that is my therapy. Like I know I can go roller skating and I'm gonna feel better once I do that. Just putting those skates on, just seeing them,
Hmm.
gets me excited. So I want to get into our next segment, which I don't really have a good title just yet. So I'm just going to call it self awareness in the news. It used to be called phased or unfazed, but I was like, I don't really like that anymore. So we're going to call it self awareness in the news. So what I want, and obviously, listeners, if y'all have any suggestions, please send them my way. But this is going to be a segment where we reflect on current events that help us assert our own self awareness, because that's what we always be trying to do here. Just always making sure we're aware and stuff. The subject is going to be, shocker, the riots at the Capitol. But I don't want to bore y'all with the repetitive dialogue that we've heard this past week from like literally everybody on the subject. So what I want to dive into is the self-awareness or lack thereof of these rioters that did what they did. I just want to attempt to put ourselves in their shoes, even if it's hard. Let's try to have some compassion or understanding here, because someone sent them into this frenzy to do what they did. And I'm going to quote Brene Brown right quick because I just love her work and I also love her podcast. She said, in order to empathize with someone's experiences, you must be willing to believe them as they see it and not how you imagine their experience to be. Now, that sounds like something that I feel like a lot of people that are like therapists have to tap into, I think. I could be wrong. I know when it comes to empathy, like that is important. And, being able to understand like how people are feeling in order to help them through whatever they're getting through. So some of these rioters probably consider themselves to be self-aware individuals. And we have like, if let's say I was talking to one of these rioters and, they tell me that they're a self-aware person, I may like my initial reaction is probably going to be, no, you're not. No, you're not. But it's because we have different ideals in the way that we see the world. And, obviously our experiences are completely different. So would you consider like self-awareness subjective under these circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, I think self-awareness is it's really subjective, right? So, your idea of self-awareness is not my idea of self-aware. Like, even when it comes to like people wearing masks, some people are like, oh, well, I'm self-aware of what I have, but I'm not self-aware of what they have. And it's like, well, if that was the case, if everyone was self-aware of what they had, then we wouldn't have the COVID pandemic, right? Because if everyone could just look at themselves or feel themselves and know that they didn't have COVID because they're self-aware, that wouldn't be a thing. And so I do feel like to really look at like you quoted the young lady prior to this, that is true. In order to really have empathy and also to understand where someone's coming from, you do have to put yourself in their shoes, right? And without judgment. And so I do, second that sentiment of that whole experience. But certain things, in my opinion, are just blatant disrespect and blatant ignorance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just too much knowledge out there in the world. And maybe that is the problem. There is too much knowledge out there, right? There's too many opportunities for social media and online blogs and websites and news sources to put out false news and too much information that it does put people in frenzies and it may put people in, in a panic mode. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if we controlled that, right, would we be controlling the news and would we be controlling the narrative where freedom of speech is no longer there, right? All these different things. So there is a issue and there is a censorship issue as well when it comes to all the information and data that we're putting out there. And I think that is why we are having issues such as that. But I think ultimately, when it comes to that situation at the border, sorry, not at the border, but at the Capitol, it really came down to, in my opinion, just ignorance and also lack thereof safety, lack thereof health, lack thereof just everything. And because the whole situation when it comes to the presidential election is beyond them, and there is no way that your revolution of the few people that you have is going to do numbers when it comes to the US government. You know what I'm saying? So and so I don't know if people really look at it that way, but from a logical standpoint, it's like, okay, you're not going to do anything but cause delay news, more COVID cases, potentially people getting hurt or dying, which there was that was the case. And so I do really think that there is an issue with people and just everyone having an opinion on something and everyone feeling like they have to go out and do something about it. It's like, you have an opinion, but here you are, you're on your podcast, right? Yeah. Great. And you can have people that agree with your opinions, but that does not mean that you have to have an action behind every opinion that you have.
Right. Yes. Ooh.
Or okay. Reaction, I should say.
Yeah, you're right. No, I think that was a great point, especially when you said, especially if they came, like, let's say they are self-aware in some sort of way, like you would be self-aware enough to know that what you are doing is going to cause harm in some sort of way. Like, right. To a lot of people, if you do X, Y, and Z, like you said with the COVID cases, like they shouldn't even been out there. They didn't have masks on. Like they have like all these different things that if you were aware enough or not necessarily just, okay, that's a good question. Self-awareness, is there a level of is there a level of how can I put this in the best way? Selfishness and self-awareness. Because if that's the case, I can see where those lines can be blurred, you know?
No, there's definitely selfishness and self-awareness, right? Because when you think of the word self, you're thinking of self, right?
Yeah.
When you break down that word itself, myself, you're
Mm-hmm.
not thinking about a collective of people, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking about yourself. And so when you break down, that word and what that really means, they really are looking at themselves and how they feel and what their emotions are and what they're going to do, but they don't realize that, or they maybe do realize that it's going to affect the next person, but they don't care, right? Because as
Right.
long as they're doing their part, they're like, okay, well, I did what I wanted to do, so
Mm-hmm.
live
Right.
with it. But I think everyone, especially now more than ever, I think vanity is a huge thing, and also narcissism and selfishness is like at its all-time high, just because of the world that we do live in. We all live in our own little bubble where we are the main character,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
yes, where we all are the main character, and that makes it very hard to have that empathy for your fellow, human. It makes it very hard for people to think outside of their own world because they are the main character in their own show.
Yeah. They're writing their own book and they're like, okay, I want my book, I want to write it this way. I want this to happen in chapter 2 and 3, but I got to have this happen in chapter one first in order to get to chapter 2 and 3. So yeah, I get you.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
cool. Well, enough of that because obviously this is going to be a conversation that's going to be happening for at least like the next year. I promise
Yes.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So next segment, this one I've had for a while now that I love. It's something I created. It's called ponytails. Now, I don't have a ponytail holder. Do I have a ponytail holder? It don't matter. Whatever. Ponytails.
Let me see if I have one now.
Ponytails with tails spelled Tales is a segment
Mm-hmm.
where I ask my guests to tell a tale with a ponytail in their head. I give the name of the topic and then we both share our ponytail. So if you have any suggestions, listeners, for anything you'd like me to share for ponytails, feel free to email self4millennial@gmail.com. But the tale that we're going to be talking about today is going to be in congruence with what our main topic is, which is social media. So I want to know from you, what was your first social media platform? And how did the skills learned from that platform aid you in your current online presence?
Yes. So you know what? It's so crazy that I work in this world that I work in, because I actually, do digital marketing and branding. I have an agency where we work with a lot of clients, a lot less now because of COVID.
Yeah.
But that was like a lot of my bread and butter outside of, me doing all my, stuff when it comes to, lifestyle, tip work and stuff like that. And it's really interesting because I'm an older soul. And so for me to, I never really saw myself necessarily working in tech, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because I've always loved tech. When I grew up, like I always wanted to know like what's inside of a computer, like how does it work and why does it work that way. So I would find myself like taking computers apart and like, signing up. I signed up for like this internship where you get like a Cisco IT certification. These are things that I just like had interest
Wow.
in. But when it came to social media, I always had like a disconnect from it because I'm more of a people person. I'm more of an
Yeah.
interactive person. So when
Yeah.
it came to social media, it was very hard for me to get into, right?
Right.
But once I realized the formula, and the formula is gloat, post only the best things in your life, never the downfalls,
Yeah.
da 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 da. It's the recipe for success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so once that became a thing, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let me use this for my platform to help me in the ventures that I'm working on and to build, and and just use it as that. And I really kind of used that. But my first social media platform, I would say, would be MySpace, but I was not very active on it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know how to use it that much. I would say MySpace. But my actual first social media, actually, I should say, was Habbo.
Hobble.
Habbo, which is like
Wait. Wait. What is that? It sounds
it's
familiar.
Habbo.
Yeah.
And so it was like a virtual world where it was like Sims.
Yeah, wait, I feel like I had that. It
Yeah,
was
like
like a Habbo
hotel.
Hotel.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
that was technically my first social media site. If you want to be real technical, that was like my first social media site because that I felt like it gave that similar human interaction, but it was
Yeah.
still like social media. So I still got that human interaction. It wasn't really human, but you get to kind of see the person or their alias that they want to present.
Yeah.
And you get to talk to them and you get to like go to their houses, you get to go out with them. So it was like, it was better than just seeing someone's status on like a MySpace or seeing their picture. I
Right.
felt more intertwined with that. So that was technically my first one. I was really into
Gotcha.
Habbo, like that was like I was crazy on that. I was like a tycoon on there. I had like hotels, I had houses, I had like everything. And when I tell you, I got my mom to give me like $5 to get the little Habbo cards to like upload the coins. I took that
Yeah.
$5 and I turned that $5 into like a whole bunch of digital money and digital like currency. I had all kind of little businesses. It was crazy. Yeah. Like I
Wow.
literally turned that stuff out.
You can
But
turn that into like that's like learning business skills right there. Like
yes,
with
yes,
it.
yes,
Ugh,
yes. Yes,
my
yes. So it was
goodness.
really fun. Like I took the and it was crazy because I don't know why I got off of. I think I got hacked or I forgot my password. I changed my password. I got hacked, but then I also got locked out of my email. It was like a lot of stuff, and I was also getting older, so it wasn't like a priority in my life anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I had so many rooms on there. I had started like a little celebrity agency where it was like we would create avatar, we would have avatars and we would have them come to your house, your party or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like, Lady Gaga or whoever like celebrity was popping. And basically it would just be the avatars that like I had created, but I created their usernames.
Yeah.
So it was like only one username created underneath that. And I would just and I would basically like sell that person to come to their events. So I'd have like on my mom's computer and I had that person go to their, and they would give me like 100 like virtual coins. And it's crazy now, right? Because we were like virtual currency. What does that really do for us, right? But in a day and age now where Bitcoin is worth so much money.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? So, people, I tell people all the time, value things that when it comes to like monetary value, there is a value on anything that enough people are willing to say it has value on, right?
Yep.
So if I say to everyone, like, okay, this water bottle is worth $5,000, and everyone's like, whoa, $5,000. Okay, so 1/5 of this is worth 1,000. And so and if enough people believe that, enough people are selling this and reselling, and there's people buying into it, this bottle of water is now worth $5,000. And that's just the way of the game. But and that's how digital currency is kind of growing because of that whole mindset of like enough people put value on it. So they're using their real money to buy into, which is the US money that is regulated, to buy into a black market, essentially, digital coin.
Yep.
That enough people put value on. So I would say that was my first social media, and I think that really showed me how to leverage different platforms and leverage different skills that other people had to also, like, I guess, network and bring those things together. And I think at the core of social media really comes down to like collaboration. But I feel like that's at the core of any business. To really grow any business, you need to constantly have collaborations, essentially, to kind of continuously bring a new flow of customers, new viewers, new listeners, whatever it may be. And I think that's at the core of any business model. And I think that's what Habbo kind of helped me do. And then I moved over to Facebook, obviously. But Facebook wasn't really like my jam, to be honest with you. And then from there, I, paralleled into social media or Instagram for my social media platform, which that was more successful for me because at that time when I got onto Instagram, I was like working with like a few celebrities and I was doing like journalism. I was running my magazine. We were doing editorials. We were doing all these different things. And I had all these visual aids to show people of what I was doing.
Right.
And it was just like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And then, you have the opportunity to tag people. So people are like, oh, wait, they know that person's all the way in LA and he's in Minneapolis, or that person's all the way in New York and he's there. Like, and it just became like this huge, like thing where it was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I would say, Hobble really gave me a lot of business tools that I never even really realized until like later on in my life, because I was dealing with, people from all around the world.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, no matter what, whether it's in real life or fake life, humans are unpredictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it taught me, is that people are unpredictable, right? So it taught me to never rely on anyone, but also to understand that people have their own lives. There's going to always be something going on because we're not robots, right? So
Right.
today I could have gotten in a car accident, God forbid, but I'm just saying, like, I could have gotten in a car accident and we couldn't have had our interview. But now
Right.
here's your interview being affected by that, right? So I
Yes.
think we have to always remember that the world is so much bigger than us and we are our main character in our lives, but there's a lot of pieces within that world of our main character that we can't control.
Right. I love
Yeah.
that. Now, when you said Habo, I thought I used to call it Habu, which was why it didn't make sense to me. I called it Habu Hotel, but I definitely had that, and I also had Coke music. I don't know if you ever been to what Coke music was, almost like Habo or
Okay.
Habu, but like it was like it was through Coke, like the drink, but like they had
Yeah.
a website just like it was just like Habu. It was actually a lot better. I think like
You
the
think so?
graphics were a lot more
Better.
updated, at least at that point. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's all on my ponytail. That I'm not going into that because like that's almost the same. It's this. I feel like that's a lot of people's same trajectory into like the current social media platforms that they use right now.
Yeah.
So let's get into the main topic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a real title for this except social media overload, because obviously everybody has their limits when it comes to
Yeah.
social media. I know I do, even though I don't necessarily always adhere to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a subject that I need to revisit every couple of months because I have like a love-hate relationship with social media. Like I know I
Yeah.
need to use it, but like it's one of those I have to use it for my podcast, for like
Right.
for what I'm trying to achieve. And if the listeners, if you want, I actually talked the first time about social media in episode 8. I called it social media distancing because I needed to social media distance at that point. But yeah, I needed to promote my artistry. I like that's kind of how I get a chance to like show people what I'm doing, when especially right now when we're not able to even be with each other in person. So
Yeah.
but I always ask myself, I'm like, do I really need social media? Do I really need it right now? Just because like I would love to just have a long break where like no one's wondering where I am because I'm not online, but like it's one of those things like social media, we become addicted to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely getting closer to finding a healthy balance by the day, but I wouldn't say I'm there yet. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that we will spend an average of 6 years and 8 months using social media. Now,
Wow.
compare that to I think like grocery shopping, which is only like a year and like some months or something like that. Like social media is like 6 years. It's like way up there.
Wow.
Um,
6 times the amount that you spend on grocery shopping in a lifetime. That's crazy.
right. So I'm just going to give a layout of what I was saying on the social media distance episode a little bit, because a lot of what caused me to social media distance 8 months ago when I did that episode parallels to my current hiccups with social media. The first one, always, I'm just like, I just don't feel adequate enough sometimes, because I sometimes, like, when I see other people's pages or whatever, sometimes it does get to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it I wouldn't say it really does that at the moment, but like I do feel myself getting anxious if I'm on social media so much and I see how other people are trying to promote themselves. Like I just feel like every time I'm on there, I see promotion, 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 even though I know this is their personal page. But obviously, that's the other thing. I'm like, this is how they want to present themselves. This is social media. I have to remember that this is not who they are. This is what everyone wants. This is what they want everyone to see. So, number one, not feeling adequate enough. Number two, I wanted to dedicate more time to learning new things. But if I'm always online, how can I learn new things unless I'm like online learning new things? Um, my third one was I wanted to focus on my current brand for the show and
Mhm.
find ways of making it more authentic and essential. And I felt like if I was going boom, bam, boom, bam, boom every single week, I wasn't having the time to like just sit and like get a chance to like really like analyze, okay, what can I be doing here to make this better? Or, you know, just like just trying to make things better. So the fourth one, how many do I have of these? I got 7. Okay, so fourth one,
Mhm.
I have a strong urge, and I've always had a strong urge to make more music.
Okay.
And I find when I'm on social media too much, I lose touch of wanting to make music. And it's weird. Like I have a love-hate relationship with that because of that, because I used to like just make music on the spot all the time. But I'm not sure exactly what it is, but every time I'm like overwhelmed with social media, one of the main things that I start like one thing that just starts coming in the back of my head starts like whispering in the back of my head like you should be making a song right now.
Mhm.
So the fifth thing was that my screen time was a lot. Like at like 8 months ago, I checked my screen time, little analytics or whatever, and it said it was 6 hours, which was
Mm.
actually better than it was like a couple of months prior. It was like 12, but this was like during quarantine where like we couldn't go anywhere and I was just online all the time. But now it's like around 2 to 3 hours, which is actually the average for many people that are on social media. So just thinking about it from that way, like 3 hours is usually the standard, at least here in North America. I think Europe has the least in their average is like an hour or like a little over an hour. But if the average is 3 hours, that 6 year and however many months mark would be like the standard American lifespan of being on social media, which I find interesting. So if you're on there more like 6 hours, it's probably more than that. Um,
Mhm.
Shoot, it'd be 12 years because yeah, you just
Double, yeah.
double it.
Oh,
Ooh.
it's a
Um,
lot.
Another one, number 6, I wanted to enjoy the outdoors more. Um,
Mm.
it's hard to do that right now because it's a little cold here in New Orleans, but I definitely say like I would love to be in the outdoors more when the weather gets better. But that's
Right.
one thing I yearn for when I'm online too much. I'm like, I just got to get outside. I got to do this. I got to go biking. I got to go to the park, something. And then my last one, I've been yearning to connect with people more like via video chat or distance meetups. Like you just talk to people over, you know, your Insta DMs or like Facebook Messenger, text message. And it's just like, it just feels so, like you were saying earlier, and like it's not as personal.
Exactly.
And at least having a video chat, I could see you. It's not the same, but like it's better.
Mhm.
I know once I started doing my videos for this podcast, having like the video element that helped out a lot. Also, I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, but I've been really enjoying Clubhouse. It's it's still better than just like texting. I don't know what it is, but yeah, Clubhouse and Zoom have kind of been my safe haven in that regard. So that was my whole list. I know it's a lot. It's probably more,
Mhm.
but that's all I could really think of at that moment. But when do you know it's time to unplug?
You know what? I don't think I really ever know when it's time to unplug, just because my entire like business structure is built off of a digital world, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes to like dealing with customers for my my lifestyle brand Truth Black, or it comes to my blog, parkerexcel.com, like when it comes to those two things, it's like I'm dealing with so much, and then I have to keep the social media updated, so I never
Yeah.
really know. And then to add to that, I have clients that I deal with as well,
Mm-hmm.
monthly on retainers that I have to like work on their projects as well. But sometimes I'll give my team some work to kind of work on those things, but it's like I still have to go and check it to make sure that their work is great, because if their work's not great,
Yes.
that's a reflection on me.
Yep.
But I think, ultimately when it comes to unplugging, I think when you need to unplug when you feel less about yourself, right? I think
Mm.
that's the time to unplug, right? And even myself, I've been recently being very transparent with myself. I think I constantly go through this battle of like, hey, like I've done so much work in this industry, but why is this like Instagram boy that just popped up 7 months ago that has like this ripped body and he's like shirtless all the time? Why is he getting the gigs that I should have gotten, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like working with brands and certain, projects, when it comes to like being like a spokesperson or something like that. And I would get into my feelings about it and I was like, you know what, this is not healthy. You know what I mean? It's not healthy. I have to disconnect and displug from that. Also, another thing I've been doing lately is that remove people that I'm following that make me feel bad about myself, right?
Yes.
Because we are only in charge of our own emotions, right? So I could be just living my own life, me, but however I live my life and however I portray it, it can make the next person feel insecure about themselves. And that could be part due to like what I'm posting. Like I'm only posting like the positive things in my life. And that person can feel like, wow, he seems to have everything, figured out. But like, oh, that's like, how does he do it? And I can't, blah, blah, blah. And that can make that person feel horrible about themselves. So they should unfollow me in that case, right? Because that is what I'm putting out, right? And it's vice versa for the next person. So I have people that's what I've been doing lately, is that if a person that I'm watching, if they're not also inspiring me, but they're only making me feel less about myself, like making me feel like, oh, like I wish I was in a relationship and I can't get that. Well, why do they and they don't do that? Or I wish I could travel all the time during COVID on a private jet. But why do they? But I can't. Any person that's making me feel less than, unfollow them and also disconnect from that. And it's not that person, right? It's you. It's you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's you.
Yeah.
And because we can't control what the next person is. The only person that we can control is ourselves and how we interpret things. So be just self-aware with yourself. I think be self-aware that this is what's making you feel this type of way, right? And I think once you do that, you can find the root of a lot of your issues. And so I think it's very hard if you do work in a digital space to distance yourself, remove yourself from it. But what I would tell people too is that what I've been doing lately is I've been I would be unlogged in from my personal account, and what I would do is just upload my posts or whatever through like a Sked or through Hootsuite or something like that, where I can't see other people's feed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
I've heard of
Yeah, because in that way, I won't also be able to see people's comments or their engagement or their likes. And like, oh, why is this post only getting this many likes? Or why is this post only getting this much comments? Like, oh, this one didn't do that well. So then it takes away that component, right? Because I'm not signed into my account. So I would say doing that. And then also, if you do work in the business space, usually I would say have two accounts, one for your personal, one for your business. But I do get that how one page could drive the other one. Like my personal page drives my business page, right?
Yep.
Without my personal page promoting my business page would not be moving.
Right.
So I do understand that as well. I think it's just about finding a balance, but also being really intact with your emotions and finding out what makes you feel good when you are on social media and what makes you feel bad when you're on social media, and remove those things or add those things. And then that way you can have a healthy relationship with social media, because social media is a platform where it's all about envy, right? It's all about envy. And I went back to like envy and also self-promotion and gloating. And, and it does make people feel bad. This is scientifically proven that it makes people feel bad.
Yeah.
So I think just being really, really, in tune with yourself is going to make your life so much easier when it comes to social media and just in life in general. You know what I mean? Like you can have friends around you that are like, this is a problem that I've had in my friend circle, is that in my friend circle, I'm very, very transparent. I let you know everything that I'm going through. But then in the same breath, they're still like, okay, well, you've gone through all that, but how are you still able to pick up and continue to do this and that? And it's been like I don't want to say a sense of like, that there is that they feel like I feel like I'm doing better than them kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it has been a problem, and I am aware of that. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to know, okay, if I'm in tune with myself and my friends, right? or if I am that friend, I have to be in tune with myself and my emotions to know why that's making me feel that way and why that insecurity is being pulled out of me. And then until you can do that, you can't really move forward. And that's with a lot of things in life. A lot of things will keep you from growing, honestly. And it really starts with self. I know so many people that are so talented and great at what they do, but they'll never go where they need to go because they are their biggest crutch themselves. Not their mama, not their daddy. And it may be past childhood trauma or, growing up trauma or life trauma. But at the end of the day, until they're able to remove that from their psyche and how they move, they'll never be able to fully own it and grow with it. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
Gotcha. Do you think those people, because I feel like you're speaking to me right now, because I feel like I'm like stuck.
No, I'm not attacking you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's okay. But no, I when you're saying it, I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's totally me. Like right now, like I feel like obviously I am my worst critic, and I am the reason why I'm not where I want to be and everything. Like I can't really blame anyone but myself. I understand that. Yeah. But I guess I wonder like how. I know I've done it before where I was able to push forward, but it was after I had gone into like a mental hospital for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And I was good after that. And I was like, okay, like I'm pushing forward at this point. And I know in these times, COVID times, it's a little bit more difficult. But I don't want that to be the excuse for myself as to like why I can't just keep pushing forward. But I was going to ask you something else. Oh, that's what it was. So because social media, at least right now, and I guess let's just assume that the social media is going to continue along this path of being influencing. It's going to influence most of us, like when it comes to like, most businesses will not be able to function unless they have some sort of social media, whatever, by let's say, I don't know what year, 2030 or something like that. Let's just say that. But what do you feel like there's a trajectory of where promotion wise, like where things will go when it comes to just like any business model, like what they should be striving for in the next couple of years, because it's going to change again. It's going to shift, maybe to a different platform. Like it may not be Instagram anymore. It may be like, I know TikTok's really big right now, but even TikTok may not last. Like I thought Vine was going to last, and Vine didn't last at all. So, so do you have any like insight on where you think it might switch, or
where social media will switch?
Yeah.
You know what? I really think that social media is going to be here, right, forever.
Yeah.
I just think what's going to change is more of the user experience, right? So I feel like it's weird because now we're going back into this era of like the party line era days, which I personally didn't have any experience with the party line days, but I know like my sister did and things like that. And then, remember like AOL chat where they had like the chat rooms. And so now that same structure is there, right?
Yeah.
The same structure is there. The same thing. The only difference is instead of words, it's now audio. Right. And I think that's what's changing in that, in the structure. Right. So I think social media will always have that base of like the same things, just the user experience will change. So, right now Clubhouse is growing, exponentially, and it's like, a big thing, but at some point people will need a visual aid. So I do believe that maybe Clubhouse will stay the same, right? But then they'll allow people to like add emojis, right? They won't be able to do DMs, but through the group chats, they'll be able to add emojis, or they'll be able to add like pictures or different things of that nature, but it won't be like direct messages so I do think everything will continuously kind of grow. The user experience will grow. I think maybe in the future when it comes to social media, maybe it will be something where it's like hologram, right? Where we're already used to like Facebook portal and like Alexa having like their little like machines where you can, talk to friends and family from across the world in that little screen. I think that's going to continue to build off of that. And I think that these bigger companies such as, Tesla and like Amazon, I think they will, acquire and or be acquired by, said companies such as Google or, Facebook, and they will incorporate that whole structure where, that social media vibe is like, you have that person right there with you, right?
Yeah.
To really bring that user experience in. And I think virtual reality is going to come back around as well, where it's going to be more immersive, where it's like you put your goggles on and you literally can walk around and talk and network. Like Afrotech, they did their huge, what is it called? They did their huge convention and they put it online, and it was like Sims. You start from the outside of the convention, you can walk around, and everyone would have their like little name badges, and you can network with those people. And that was like a huge success. And I'm pretty sure they saved a lot of money, paying a developer. I mean, they probably didn't save a lot of money. They probably spent a lot of money, but to have that technology that they can use for future conventions.
Yeah.
We'll probably save them a lot of money. I'm pretty sure, like, normal convention probably be $40,000-$30,000 to use a space alone, let alone the marketing. But, now you're on a digital space. So I think that that's what's going to change. I think just the user experience will be the thing that changes when it comes to people being online and in the social media space. Everything will be a little bit more like immersive, right? So right now we're doing Zoom and we can, see each other right here, but maybe the Zoom in the future, it'll set up where we can set out little tabs around the table, and that table will project each person as if they're there in a 3D way.
Right.
So the interaction is more like personable.
That's some like Xenon stuff.
Yeah, but it is the future, and it's crazy because all these things, when it comes to tech, all these things are already created. It's just getting us as users comfortable enough to allow that in our lives. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why they go through the phases of releases, right? So like Apple, they already have 6 generations of phones already done. It just won't be released until we've learned each generation and have gotten comfortable with that now being the new normal, right?
Yeah.
But when phones first came out with the cameras on the front, so many people were like, "Oh, that's an invasion of privacy," blah blah blah. And now people think it's crazy to not have a phone that doesn't have a camera in front of it. Yep. So it's all about training us to think that is now the new norm. And it goes back to like Lyft and Uber, right? Lyft and Uber was designed to be a car pickup service, a taxi service, essentially. But that was their goal when it came to growing Lyft and Uber, was their biggest expense is the driver, right? Mm-hmm. Their biggest liability is the driver, right? Because humans make mistakes, right? And so their goal is to get people comfortable enough to get in a car with a stranger, to then the next phase will be getting people comfortable enough getting in the car with multiple strangers, right? They release Lyft Pool, Uber Pool, and you can get in the car and share a pool. Yep. Then the next release is getting people comfortable with getting in a car that's operated by just a machine.
Yep.
Right? So these are all phases that are released, and it's all just for us to understand and to be comfortable with it from a mental standpoint. Like I know, like they said, Walmart didn't do well like in Europe, and that's because Walmart launched in Europe, but or was it Canada? It was Canada, and the reason why I didn't do well, is because they don't trust people they don't like people that greet them at the door, right? And that's what the Walmart does. It greets you at the door. But once you get into the store, you can't find an employee to save your life. But some people don't trust that when there's a greeter at the door. They feel uncomfortable, right? And so some cultures, had they released and started a smaller structure where they built that customer value off of, you coming in and them giving you a cart, right? And saying hello.
Right.
That would make a customer feel less, and right.
It probably would have not as jarring.
Exactly. It probably would have had more of a successful structure, and it probably would have been, stuck around. But, that's that. But yeah.
All right. So it's like a phase 1, phase 2 situation. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, because it's already there. Yeah. It's just the human mind has to be comfortable with it. And if not, then people won't buy into it, which then it's a failed product,
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about this because we just kind of already discussed this, but I just wanted to quickly talk about just the mental health aspect of social media. I know I already really talked about it very much, but just for the listeners, and I mean, this is common knowledge, but we all know, like, when it comes to social media, the reason why we're on there so much is because of the dopamine is that we have
Yeah.
is released every time we receive acknowledgement on our social media.
Mhm.
But the intention behind, like, the things that we are posting, when we share content to our social media platforms, this was something I asked on the social media distancing episode. I was like, what's the outcome that we are hoping to achieve? I think that is a nice basis or a nice root of, you know, at least being intentional and understanding, like, what you are wanting to get out of whatever you decide to put out there. I know sometimes
Mhm.
it's, you know, just because you want someone to feel like they're in solidarity with you.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just for popularity purposes. Some people just want to educate, grab attention, feel validated, all the above. So what do you feel when you share content on your social media platforms? I know you said you have like two, right?
Mhm.
What do
Well,
you
I have more than that,
feel?
but
Well,
yeah.
gotcha.
Uh,
What is the outcome you are hoping to achieve, like, overall, usually?
you know what? Overall, I think it's change, right? Like when it comes to life, I think we are constantly evolving, right? And I think initially when I first had my social media and I was like posting on there, it was more of just for me to kind of have like an archive of like my work and what I'm doing and working on. But then
Mm-hmm.
once I realized that it worked in my favor because it led me to more work, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, like let me use this to like essentially like brag about what I'm working on because then that next person,
Yes.
that next, director, project coordinator is gonna, find value in me because I just boasted about how I did this and now they have an acknowledgement about that or knowledge about that.
Yeah.
Um and so I think but now I'm in this space where I have client work where you know it doesn't revolve around me necessarily putting stuff on my personal social media or my business social media
Mm-hmm.
that makes me income. And I have my lifestyle brand that's bringing my income in and all those different things like that I'm not necessarily so hell bent on putting and portraying all my different lifestyles out there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
more about being 100% authentic about what I'm going through, good and bad.
Yeah.
Because, I do realize that my platform is a place where I can help relate to people and people can relate to me.
Yeah.
And also for them to understand that you see where I've gotten, but you didn't see what I had to go through to get here. And
Right.
still going through, and still going through.
Yes.
And so I think that's why I wanted to kind of like be a little bit more transparent on my social media. And that also prompted me to starting my lifestyle show or my life show, which is like my big XL life, which is very hard to document because there's so many things that go on in our day-to-day life that we can't just catch all on camera.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I what do you call it? Like I'm documenting that, I'm putting that out there on social media, on YouTube. It's been kind of a little bit on hold just because of COVID.
Yeah.
And not being able to have a cinematographer around me, more and so now I'm filming it myself on my phone, but I'm a stickler when it comes to quality. So that's something that I've had to
I
learn
feel you.
and get out of.
Yeah.
I had to get out of that whole like, everything doesn't have to be top quality when it comes to production quality and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's really where I'm at right now, where it's showing more of my raw life and giving it to people straight what I'm going through, and also being there and being a voice that people can talk to and I can give knowledge to. What I've learned with that is that I only have so much time in my day, right? And I get a lot
Right.
of people because I feel like I am approachable. I come off very approachable. So a lot of people will ask me for advice and ask me for knowledge. But since at the end of the day, I am a consultant, that's what I get paid for. I get paid for my
Right.
business advice
Mm-hmm.
and my digital advice. I have to draw a line, right? So
Yeah.
I've been playing with the idea of doing like an online seminar, online courses where it's a pre-filmed course and, each person can sign up for, $20 and they can go and take it. And it's like a three-step class or something like that.
Yeah.
And it gives them the knowledge of what I'm talking about
Yeah.
or what I'm doing. And I think that's kind of more of the realm I'm going towards. Just
That's a great
because,
idea.
yeah, because I do want to be knowledgeable and I want to be there for everyone, but it's like it's only one of me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
So you get a chance to, like you said, it's gonna be pre-recorded. You can like already lay out what you want to say, what you gotta
exactly,
say, and you don't have to do it live and forget. I get that. Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome.
and based off like my number one asked questions, right? Or my top asked questions. So it would just be like a structured thing. So yeah, that's something that I'm definitely developing. But I think right now, I think more than ever, I think that's something that everyone deserves to do is be more just more truthful with their life and what they're going through on their social platforms.
Yeah.
Because with the suicide rates going up now, just due to the COVID and just people feeling alone, and then we're going through COVID during the holiday season as well. There's so many people, that's like when people feel the most loneliest is during the holiday season, when they don't have people to be around and they are seeing all their friends and people with their family and friends and things like that. And
engagement announcements all over the place.
Yeah.
So another solution, I would say, just because I have it written here and I want to just make sure everybody who's listening in, and that's actually, I'm very happy that you brought that up because that's what I've been doing on my platform through the Self-Aware Millennial. Like just yesterday, I was just letting people know, yo, I'm not in a good spot. I'm in a very dark place. Like I let people know when that's happening because like, I'm not always like, lively like this. Like this is almost like something I can instantly get into. It's like when you get on stage and you're a performer and actor on stage for an audience,
right?
It's something I can easily tap into whenever I have to, even if I'm like almost like on my deathbed. Like I can still like get up and do whatever I have to. But
exactly
what you can do according to eatactics.com is you can limit social media. Obviously they say 10 minutes a day, but that's really pushing it. I think they also said like 30 minutes a day would be good for like, if you can do that for 3 weeks, it usually leads to lower loneliness and depression. I know also on my phone, there's time limits that you can put on your apps now. Contact your friends, tell them to call you, text you, Zoom you, however your preferred way of this, conversing is. And just make sure like we've been saying is like put yourself first. Always what you need the most. Try to shut all the other noise out and just like listen to what you need. Normally you don't notice that until you're like really down and you like, I know for me yesterday for in particular, I was like, okay, I finally like just turned off everything. I just sat there and I listened to myself and like I was literally telling myself what I needed to do. I was not able to do that with all the distractions, but like once it was just me, I was like, oh, okay, but it took a lot. It took a lot for me to just like unplug so that I could have a conversation with myself. So, and this is an open-ended question because I'm wanting to know how is there even a way at this point to succeed without social media? And I guess success obviously is subjective to what you define as success as. I know millennial lifestyles are rooted in striving for success. But I say also for millennials, the way our success is normally measured is through our popularity on social media platforms. But I guess if there are any at this point that we can use today, like what are some non-social media practices that we can implement right now to become our own definition of successful? If there is that's actually a really hard question. That's why I made this an open-ended question because I'm like, I really don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but I'm wondering if there is something out there that can be done.
I would say, you know what? I would say something that would probably be effective for a lot of people would be probably taking yourself off of the social media platforms that are a mix of professional and personal, right? So maybe gearing towards your social media more towards just being on like LinkedIn social media, right?
Yes.
Where that's less about personal life, it's more about professional life. So then you don't have that pressures of like your personal life, personal inadequacies that you're dealing with in your head.
Yeah.
And I would say, so personal life, I would say probably go towards more of a LinkedIn. And when you want to really kind of like balance it out, and you might actually have more success on LinkedIn because these companies, they need people and they're only finding the people that are on LinkedIn, right? They're not using Instagram, right? These big companies are only using like LinkedIn. So now you're on that LinkedIn where they might need someone that is a very, very niche thing. And it's such a small pool because they're on LinkedIn, and your competitors or your competition or, your peers, they're not on there. So I would say like maybe a LinkedIn. And I would say also, the second thing I would say would be just whatever it is that you're doing, just be the best at it, right? Be the best at it, and be the best at it and you may have to market yourself on social media, but you can create like a bounce back email, right? Where it's like, hey, you don't have to be on social media daily. You can, get a Hootsuite or a social media scheduling account, and you can schedule your social media to post throughout the entire month. You take one day off from your month, and you just schedule all your content, right? And then that way you don't have to actively be on there daily. You just have one day out of the month that you have to be on there. And if people want to contact you, it just refers them to contact you through your email, right? Yeah. And if it's serious business, they'll call you or they'll email you. So I would say that's one thing that you could do. Those are two things you could do, I should say. Yeah. But also just do really great work, because honestly, even to this day right now, when it comes to my marketing and branding work, I really never even promote that on my social media platform. It's really just honestly doing good work with one person, 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, and then those sending me referrals. Right. So it's a constant door of referrals. So
and that's usually through word of mouth too. But obviously that's something that can technically be achieved without social media, but it's a lot easier with social media, because then they have a wider audience much quicker, which is the quickness is what they want. Exactly. I feel like I learned something in this episode. Oh my God. What important revelations can we take from today's discussion to like bring forth into this upcoming year, even though it's still very young?
Yeah, no, I would say the most important thing I would say is, for one, check in on the people that are around you, like your loved ones, your friends, family. Just check in on everyone, because like I said, we are our own main character in our lives, right? So we do forget about people. Like I'll forget about calling my mama for like 2 weeks to like a month probably. I'd be like, oh shit, I haven't talked to my mom in a minute. And I'll be like, oh, I should probably call her, or I'll be like, my like the person like my business mentor that I call like my dad or whatever, like my, like essentially like my father figure in my life. I'm like, oh, I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, or I haven't talked to him in like a week. And I think it just goes back to like remembering, like, hey, check in on people, because you're not the only one going through something. Right. And I think once we do check in on those people, when I check in on those people that I haven't checked in on, it actually makes me feel better as well.
And they're probably inspired to check on other people too. It's a ripple effect.
Exactly. So I would say that, and then also I think the biggest takeaway too is remove the things that are pressure points in your life, right? So if social media, if you see people on personal social media, people that you grew up with, or like peers that that you do similar work to, and that you're constantly comparing yourself to them, remove them out of your life. And it's not a them thing, it's a you thing, right? Remove them out of your life, because they make you feel inadequate. And the only thing you owe yourself is your sanity, right? And your passion. And if you're not in a sane place, you're going to always be in that place of constantly, not being balanced, constantly having issues with your, your workflow and everything else. So I would say focus on that. And then I think it goes back to also being in touch with your emotions. Take a step back from everything, work, your personal life, all that stuff, and be in touch with your emotions and really know what are your pressure points. It really goes back to those things, because with your pressure points, what I've learned when I've dived more into my pressure points, I've been able to really realize, because I'm an emotional eater. So I've been able to dive into like, okay, this is why I emotionally eat, because of A, B, C, and D. And those A, B, C, and D are in my life during this time and that time and this time. So I need to remove those out of my life. A, B, C, and D. Do you know what I'm saying? So and balance it out. I think it just comes down to balance, but it's very, very hard for us as humans to be, I think, in my opinion, honest with ourselves, right? Like, or to say it out loud, right? Like in the back of our head, we can say it, but out loud, we don't have the courage to say it out loud to ourselves. And I think it really comes back to saying it out loud. I know that sounds so cliche. It's admitting to yourself, saying it out loud.
It's so true though.
Yeah.
No, another friend of mine actually just posted had a YouTube video out just talking about how to deal with anxiety. And I think one of their suggestions is like just talking it out, like recording yourself and then going back and listening to it later, because then it's just the perspective of it. It almost sounds like you're listening to someone else say it, and you can like try to help that person that's saying it, like whatever they're going through, like figure it out, because like I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's easier than like saying it to yourself and like not being able to hear it back. There's another additive of, I don't know, like communication, that you're communicating with yourself and like being able to figure things out by listening to what you're already saying. I don't know. It's like looking at yourself through a window or whatever.
Exactly.
Seeing exactly what's going on. Well, awesome, man. This was a great conversation.
No, I had so much fun.
Please give them your socials, because like obviously people are going to want to hear from you a little bit more, especially about this. And I'm really excited for this episode to premiere, because they're going to need this. I know I need to. I'm gonna go back and listen to this a couple of times too.
No, I'm definitely excited for it. And I think this is the type of content I want to put out more content, and just like, I think just more talking out loud to people, because I know the chances are if you feel some type of way about yourself or something you're going through, there's probably like at least 10 more people that feel in that way that you know or you've come across. Mm-hmm. And so my social media is at Parker XL, and that's like extra large, like, you know, a t-shirt size. Mm-hmm. And that's for everything. I think my Twitter is the real Parker XL, because somebody else took Parker XL. That's a story for another day, guys.
Sounds like self-aware millennial for me. I had to change it to the self-aware millennial.
Look, yes. And then also my website is www.parkerxl.com, and on there I share lifestyle tips and like lifestyle news, things that are going on in the world. And then I also have a lifestyle brand, which is truthblack.com, where you can find some of my fashions and my candles and, you know,
candles, okay.
Lifestyle things. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
I love candles.
Yes, Iconic. I'll have to make sure I send you one. Iconic is my number one seller, but we also have Rich Sex, which is like a Prosecco, smell, and it also has like undertones of leather. And then additionally to that, we have Puff, which Puff is one that I'm actually phasing out of the brand right now because of mailing issues, because it does have a cannabis scent to it. And it also has, and this has been like a lot of problems when shipping it to certain customers in certain areas. So we're just removing it out, but it is an amazing floral scent, and it doesn't smell like, you know, cannabis. It's more of a fruity smell, but you know,
everybody has their senses. Yeah.
But I figured since I'm in California, I went back to the branding and marketing. I was like, okay, I'm in California. I know people love their pot out here. I was like, how do I package that in a product,
right,
and make it cute and fun and still on brand? And that was that. So
I love it. Well, thank you so much. If you all have any suggestions on future things you'd like me to cover on the Self-Aware Millennial, I got a whole year's worth to figure that out. Email the selfawaremillennial@gmail.com, or follow and DM me on Instagram at the Self-Aware Millennial. Also, if you're on Apple Podcasts, give the Apple Podcast algorithm some stars, preferably 5, maybe 4.5. Okay, 5, do 5. And then finally, finding funding for this podcast gives me anxiety, as we all know. Video recordings, let me say that again. Finding funding for this podcast normally gives me anxiety, as we all know at this point. To help alleviate that, you can join my Patreon, where you will find bonus episodes, video recordings that didn't make the show, and a bunch of self-reflection excerpts from yours truly. That's www.patreon.com/the Self-Aware Millennial. And I'm going to leave y'all a nice late Christmas treat present with a preview from my most recent episode. I talked about I had a year in review about like my polyamory year in review. I'm polyamorous, by the way. And I just kind of talked about everything that I did last year, even during COVID. I did it safely, but there was some things I put up in there. So y'all gonna listen to that. I hope you enjoy this preview, and I will talk to y'all next week, hopefully. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, guys. It's so great being on with you today.